Doug Lesmerises and Nathan Baird here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We just had a news conference on Wednesday evening with Gene Smith, the Ohio State Athletic Director, detailing exactly how everybody arrived at this decision that Chase Young will miss 2 games. He missed Maryland, he's going to miss Rutgers, he'll be back for Penn State. Nathan, what did you find most interesting about what Gene had to say?
I thought it was interesting that right up front, he kind of dispelled any rumors about the source of this coming from other Big Ten rivals, specifically Penn State or Maryland. He knew that was out there. Now, we'll take him at his word that he was legitimately trying to not impugn people who don't deserve to be impugned for that, I suppose. Although he then went on to say the other thing was it is a legitimate violation. Like, he's not backing away from that. The violation was committed. So I don't know how much you blame somebody for turning someone in for something they actually did. I don't know. But then also the fact that Ohio State, went through this process, and the NCAA came back and said, and Ohio State only wanted him to miss the 1 game.
Right.
And the NCAA came back and said, no, it's got to be 2 games. Ohio State said, okay, we're not even going to appeal. I don't know if they would have appealed if it was a different opponent and not Rutgers. I think there's a chance they might have, just as a matter of form. But in this case, they get to kind of say, okay, and walk away, and maybe even get some goodwill from the NCAA for how cooperative they're being.
So, they could have heard the appeal, Gene said. The NCAA, it's a 5-person appeal board that would have heard any potential appeal by Ohio State. Ohio State only submitted its findings on Tuesday. The NCAA comes back on Wednesday. They probably could have gotten an appeal done by Saturday, but again, they basically decided, he said, with the Young family, that it wasn't worth it. I think the main point here, we've sort of been talking about this all along, is that I've used the analogy that rather than going to trial, Ohio State pleads guilty to this stuff, and they would rather work out a plea deal than try to say we're going to go for guilt or innocence, and maybe we're going to say we're not holding him out, we don't think it was a big deal or whatever, no games missed, but then if you get the max, you might miss 4 games.
Right.
And Gene Smith did say they came to the conclusion after this was brought to Ohio State's attention the day after the Wisconsin game on that Sunday that a violation had taken place. So what Gene Smith said was he's either going to miss games now or he's going to miss games later. So they have learned maybe from the bowl ban they didn't take, when they didn't take the bowl ban in 11 and then they got it in 12, take your medicine now before it potentially gets worse. So I find all the process stuff of this very interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure that the average person finds it that interesting, but clearly there's a great level of cooperation here. And again, I've made this point. The NCAA did not investigate this. Ohio State investigated it and said here. So if you're going to do your own investigation, you want it to be good enough that the NCAA doesn't say, well, you know what? We're going to start sniffing around ourselves.
Well, this doesn't seem like it's that complicated of an issue, and they still took 16 days
to
do their due diligence and talk to as many people as possible. Now, the one thing you are trying to find out is from Chase Young and his family being like, now you're sure this is the one? This is the one that happened, right? The one violation. We don't want there to be 2 or 3 other loans out there that now we have to account for. And assuming that's what they did through those 16 days, was determined it was just this one incident, we assume. They didn't go into details today, and now they can kind of get past it.
Worth noting, and Gene Smith did note it, did not back away from it, in a world where players can use their likeness and image to get endorsements or do commercials or get money from people, this kind of thing wouldn't happen. He knows that's hanging out there. Gene Smith is also in charge of the committee that's studying all that stuff, which is trying to slow play it. So Gene Smith is caught in between. He knows it's coming, and he knows that this is going to go away. This kind of stuff at some point will go away. And I think the way this worked out, the NCAA knows that too. So I think in the end, if you want to say the NCAA is nuts, all these rules are stupid. And again, Gene Smith said a version of that. The strongest version of that a sitting athletic director can say, he said they're arcane, and they're from the 90s. I think arcane means old. I'm arcane. So that idea, I think, hung over this, and in the end, not that big a deal, I guess, unless you think the NCAA is doing that to guys.
It potentially costs Chase Young the Heisman Trophy consideration. It potentially costs him as many sacks as he would have ended up with this season and in his Ohio State career. Those are sort of cosmetic things. It doesn't do anything to what Ohio State's season can be.
It's easy to say it's nothing when it's not you. The best player in college football sat 2 games. That's something to him.
Yeah.
But now everybody can move on. He's Nathan, I'm Doug. Make sure you're reading our coverage. All kinds of Chase Young stuff, everything else about this team at cleveland.com. Oh, and I sent a bunch of texts about this stuff. This would have been a great time to be a tech subscriber. 14-day free trial at cleveland.com, $3.99 a month at cleveland.com.